I need new cards. I need new cards. I gotta do them all. That's great.
I guess we're ready.
So this will be easy transition.
Yeah.
Good evening. To board meeting of May 26th and 11th. Please refrain. Okay, seems the microphone now is on. Good evening. The Design Review Board number 2 public meeting of May 26th, 2011 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current Design Review Board agendas are available by calling our Design Review Board hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and Design Review Board appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that all appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the Design Review Board decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. Roll call, Board Member Baladian.
Here.
Board Member Garagos.
Here.
Board Member Sakai.
Here.
Board Member Zarifian.
Here.
Chairman Malikian.
Here.
The report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on May 19th, 2011. Oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes, and the board may question the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The board may refer the matter to the proper department section for investigation report. I do not have any oral communication cards. Chairman Malikian?
No, we do not.
Present. Okay, which brings us to the regular calendar. At this point in time, there are no staff announcements, and we have 2 items on the consent calendar and 3 items on the regular calendar. I believe there is a one of tonight's cases. This would be case number B on the regular calendar agenda, and this would be specifically for case number 2-PDR 2011-007-A. The address is 1008 North Pacific Avenue. There was
That's continuing?
There was an issue regarding the public notices.
I see.
So unfortunately, that matter will be continued without further public notice for 2 weeks.
Okay.
With that announcement for the continuance, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Chairman Malikian.
Thank you. A quick refreshing course on these consent calendars. Do we need to open?
For the items on consent, primarily staff has worked with the applicant and has gotten the project to a point where staff feels very wholeheartedly they're able to recommend approval of the matter, whether it's with the conditions or without. Now, the board, anyone on the board, can request that the matter be taken off the consent calendar.
Okay.
Or if the board so wishes, someone can just go ahead and make a motion to approve or approve with conditions, and the matter will not be taken off the calendar, and there will be no staff presentation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions, comments on the first project, which is the 2PDR 2011-013A, 624 West Lexington Drive? Anyone has any questions, comments, any
Make a motion to
issues?
approve item A, just noted, that you just mentioned.
Okay,
Motion.
there are 3 conditions. Would you like to include them?
Yes. I think we have to, otherwise you bring it up. It has to be with the conditions, the only way it'll be approved.
Correct.
I second.
Can we have a vote?
Okay. There's a motion made by Board Member Garagos, and this would be to and let me read into the record, actually, the first item on tonight's agenda on the consent calendar. This would be case number 2-PDR 2011-013-A. This would be for a new guest house in a multifamily residential zone, the address of which is 624 West Lexington Drive. And I do have a motion made by Board Member Garagos with a second by Board Member Sakai. So in terms of roll call, Board Member Sakai? Yes. Board Member Zarifian?
Yes.
Board Member Baladian?
Yes.
Board Member Garagos?
Yes.
Chairman Malikian?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously 5-0 to approve with conditions.
Okay. The second item, which is the 3217-3221 Honolulu, we do have a card from the applicant, but it is on a consent calendar.
Correct. No.
Would like to speak? I can open the... Okay. Okay. All right. Then, do we have any comments, thoughts, questions, concerns?
I think looks fine. I'll move to motion to approve with conditions.
Second it.
There were no conditions? There were some.
I thought there was something.
Yeah, okay, maybe I confused it
There's
with.
nothing on
Actually,
it?
yes.
No conditions,
okay.
then
Correct.
motion to approve.
A second.
So I have a motion made by Board Member Zarifian, a second by Board Member Garagos to approve, and that would be with no conditions as presented by staff. Motion, Board Member Sakai?
Yes.
Board Member Zarifian?
Yes.
Board Member Baladian?
Yes.
Board Member Garagos?
Yes.
Chairman Malikian?
Yes.
The second item on tonight's consent calendar passes unanimously 5-0.
Thank you.
3 down.
All right. We're moving down to the first item under the continued case, which we previously opened this case, and we
Correct.
continue that, so we don't need to open this again. But for the record, it'll be the case number 2 PDR 2011-016A, 3215 Country Club Drive.
Correct. And because revised sets of plans were provided by the applicant and a staff report analyzing those plans and the requested information by the board, there was a staff report presented. I would like to give the opportunity for staff to make that brief presentation before we
Can I
take
ask
testimony.
you a question?
Yes.
I live in the area, and I'm not sure if I'm within the...
There is a map on the board. You can probably look at, see if your residence is with.
Correct.
Were you noticed?
Did you receive a notice? If you did not, then you
No, I
probably
don't
are not within 500.
remember. Let's see, the house. Greenmont. No, I'm fine. Outside of... Yeah, that's fine.
But this is the 500, so
Yeah, that's correct.
he needs to be within...
Within 500.
500.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Board ready?
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members. This case number for the first regular agenda item is 2 PDR 2011-016A, located at 3215 Country Club Drive. This application, as you mentioned, was last reviewed by the board on April 28, 2011, at which time the board continued this to a date certain to allow the applicant the time to stake the southeast corner of the addition, as well as consider redesigning the project to reduce the projection towards the front. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to come up and give you a brief, yet try to do a thorough rundown of what has taken place since then and what has really changed to address the board's comments.
Thank you.
Okay, these are the plans that we saw 4 weeks ago on April 28th. This is the new sets of plans. Previously, the proposal was to add over 700 square feet, also projecting at the front to accommodate for a bedroom as well as the additions at the back, connecting the garage with the main house. This hasn't changed much in terms of square footage and layout. The addition in the back really hasn't changed. Square footage has been reduced by less than 25 square feet. It has been reduced to 697. However, the addition at the front that is projecting towards the street has been shortened, if you will, by approximately 4 feet. And a smaller addition to the north side is being proposed, which is here. It's here for a new bathroom. And the previously proposed dining room and the bedrooms are being swapped, as was recommended by the board. So that resulted in a smaller or shorter extension at the front by another 4 feet. Objections were made by neighbors, concerns were raised regarding how much it projects into the past the existing prevailing setback line of the rest of the block. Staff has been able to work with the engineering department, produce a map, which is here, to show where the existing prevailing setback lines are for the existing 5 homes within the block. And as you can see, the addition falls within that line, is almost aligned, maybe off by 6 inches or so, but it's almost aligned with the existing setback line. So staff has taken that really strongly into consideration, doing the research to find out how much will this have an effect in terms of the existing prevailing setbacks, and it appears that it won't, because it is pretty much aligned with the existing homes and their setbacks. The addition to the side that you see, this is, as I mentioned, this is to accommodate for a bedroom, for a bathroom, or a new bedroom here. Staff did not feel comfortable with this because this was originally proposed when we were working with the applicant, I would say about 6 months ago maybe, going through the pre-DRB review. And staff wasn't comfortable because of the roof line and the way it just works with the rest of the house, as you can see here. And this has always been something staff has not encouraged for the applicant to do. However, it is proposed in this version, and staff recommends eliminating that 58 square foot addition on this side to have a cleaner roof line. If the board wills, if the chairman allows, I think the applicant may have some arguments regarding that, or trying to make a counter. Okay.
Public
So-
section is closed.
The reason why staff feels that this, again, setback was the main issue, and board gave the applicant a chance to stake the corner and also reduce the size of the addition. See if a compromise can be made between the homeowner and the neighbors. And staff feels comfortable recommending an approval based on 4 main points. It is noted in the staff report, and I'll briefly go over those 4 points. One, that the map that was produced really illustrates the fact that it is in fact in line with the existing prevailing setbacks. 2, the street somewhat curves towards the north, providing a smaller, much smaller measurable setback for the homes to the north than it is for the house, the subject property. 3, there's a sidewalk actually coming from the south to the north and stops right before the subject property, giving the subject property that visual extended setback. Because here we have sidewalks and parkways, but the subject property actually, and they're visible in the pictures if you want to look at them, the subject property seems to have a more visual setback. Although the actual measurable setback is the same, there's that extra grass strip that adds to the front setback. And lastly, the average of the neighborhood actually is 27.6 feet. The proposed setback for the subject property is over 30 feet and 2 inches. Those 4 factors play an important role helping staff to recommend an approval, support the project with 2 recommended conditions. One is to consider providing a landscape plan by a professional landscape architect before issuance of any permits, and 2, as I mentioned, to eliminate the addition to the north and provide a cleaner roof line.
Okay.
Is
Is there
any questions?
Has there been any letters, any emails?
Yes, those have been attached to your.
But I
to
thought
the
these
packet
were
that
the
was-
previous.
There were also new ones. If you look under the new, if you don't have, I'll try to make copies for you, but that's the old one. Yeah.
This is not the old one. This is the new one.
That's the new one.
Right.
Let me see if I have anything on my desk. Two additional emails have been sent to me.
But that's the May 10th is the,
It's before you get to it. Engineering that, right there.
this was the original
May
one.
17th.
No, that's a new one. May
If you
10th.
look at the date, if it's
April in it.
after
Okay.
April
Never
28th, it
mind.
should be a new one. You've got it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any questions for me?
No? Again, the public hearing is closed. I have a card from you, so if you have any questions for the architect, I can reopen and have him come back and state his, or address your questions if you have any.
No?
No? We don't have any more cards, so we're going to deliberate then. Anybody want to start?
I'll go ahead and start. I apologize, I wasn't here for the previous view of this. I'll just say two things, otherwise I'm basically in support of it. As I look at the before and after, or the previous and current,
Excuse me.
You-
It seems like,
Would you mind just taking a 1-minute break? Because
Um,
we want to double check and verify that the board members that were not present at the last hearing when the
Oh,
public actually
yeah,
spoke,
okay.
and when the board took
Right.
testimony, that you have the ability to actually vote at tonight's meeting, or whether it would be just the board members that actually were present for the original deliberations and for the public testimony taken the first time.
Okay.
So if you don't mind just taking 1-minute break,
okay, we'll take a
be
minute
right back.
break. Thank you for checking. We didn't want to get people in trouble.
Nope.
Okay, so we're back on. Okay, so now if you want to go over that one more time for the public.
Chairman Maliki and board members, the board members who have reviewed the tape from the last meeting's proceedings, and you saw all of the public testimony and heard all of the discussions that the board had at the previous meeting, I believe it was on April 28th, 2011, those board members have the ability to go ahead and participate in tonight's discussion and actually vote on the case. So if you have not watched the entire meeting online or on the DVD, we ask that you please abstain from tonight's final vote.
Okay. Now, I will open the public hearing. I understand the architect has some additional information, being that normally I don't open because it is continuation, but you have provided new information, so I would like to open and hear what you have to say. So, if you can state your name and address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Franco Naravian, 409 West Broadway, Glendale, California, 91204. I'm the architect on the project, and I'll be brief. I just wanted to mention, in regards to the staff's conditions, that I did consider eliminating the addition to the north that they're talking about in the condition, and we really need that extra square footage. I don't want to take it from the backyard, and obviously we're trying not to come into the front yard. That extra space is basically wasted side yard. Because of the unusual shape of the lot, we don't have a square lot, so therefore the building is not square. And I did another rendering from the side of what we were proposing previously, the last design, without the addition to the north, but keeping the existing walls that are there now. See, what happens is the little pop-out that's currently there has a flat roof. It's all permitted and everything, but has a flat roof. So previously we were proposing to at least change that to a pitched roof. But if you look at the picture, the model, you'll see that even that doesn't look like it's always, it's not perfect, but it's better than what's there now. And I think what we're proposing now, the current design, is even better than what we were proposing previously. I agree that it's not perfect, but since it's on the side of the house and it can't be seen, I think it's acceptable.
Well, just to clarify, staff was recommending consideration. They weren't recommending.
Oh, okay. Then.
So that was but let's take a look at it. I'll just put it right. Let me put it up on the board. So
You can put, right on top, exactly. That would be the two options. And if I can just mention one other thing regarding the second consideration with the landscape plan. My client and I, we went out there and discussed the landscaping, and he's very happy with the landscaping that's there now. And so I took pictures of all of the trees and shrubs, and they can almost 99% of it can stay. Where if you look at the footprint of the house, you'll see that in most areas we're not pushing out. The only area we're pushing out is the south corner in the front a little bit, and there's not much landscaping there. But we'd like to just keep the existing landscaping and maybe add a condition that if anything gets damaged during construction, we can replace it with the same type of landscaping, and this can be put in the file with the type of the... And that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Well, just a quick comment. Obviously, during construction, anything that is within, certain parameter of the area of work, it's going to get damaged. So there's not going to be any irrigation. There's not going to be any crew is going to go out there and put their tools and everything, and they're going to. So I appreciate you bringing this, but I think, something more substantial needs to be taken in consideration. If you have to remove them, place them somewhere and replant them, or I don't know, but this is where Ms. Sakai comes into play, and she needs to recommend what to do on that. But that's my take. Based on experience, during construction, no water gets done, or, in this case, it's a very minimal. So I really don't see any problems with the irrigation, but the affected areas should be somehow controlled and somehow mitigated.
Are they proposing to replace this tree in the front area where you're proposing to add the addition?
And in fact, we
space?
looked at that exact thing, and if you see the poles, because we have to put up the
Right.
poles, they're right next to it, so the tree can stay.
Right next to this tree.
In other words, the tree is right next to
outside of the area.
But what about the foundation that you're going to pour and dig and excavate and all of that? That's not going to affect it?
But you're saying if it does die, you're going to replace it?
Correct,
With the
yeah.
same kind of material?
Yes,
and
yes.
then-
Well, then what we can do is we can put this in the record, and
Right.
that could be
That
a
was Mr.
record.
Richard's
Right.
idea about the models. I think that's a good idea.
See, the property has been vacant for almost a year, and my client's taking care of it. So he promised that he will continue to do that even during construction.
Okay.
So,
Any questions?
I have a question about the backyard, because
Yes.
one of the conditions is to remove the arbor covering, or the shaded covering
Yes,
area.
yes.
What are they proposing to do when they take it out? Just leave it concrete?
that will be the only concrete area they have, and the rest is lawn.
Yes, I saw the backyard this time, and I'm just not sure that backyard's going to look like anything you want to. It's not going to be a nice space after you take the covering away. It's going to be really hot with all that concrete.
Oh, right.
And the other question I had was if you mentioned that they wanted to keep as much backyard as possible, so you didn't
Right.
want to extend the house into the backyard. But a lot of our
Right.
comments from neighbors said, backyard we don't see it, we don't care.
Right.
It's the front yard that we care about.
Right,
So
right.
the idea to push back more into the backyard, you're saying you're at kind of at the maximum where you want to be. You don't want to go further into the backyard.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we looked at the rest of the homes, and what we're proposing is exactly lined up with the other, the house to the south. So, although we're still blocking a little bit of their view, I don't know if you had a chance to go out there, but we feel that we only have a small frontage, and my client just likes to have the same privilege as the neighbor to the south as far as enjoying the view. Their property is 90 feet, plus the curved window makes it seem like it's even bigger. And ours is only 45, I think, or 44, 45 feet. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And the public session is closed. Sakai, would you like to go ahead and...
Sure. So I think in terms of the landscaping, it would be a good idea for the client to get some landscaping done. I don't think I want to condition it. I think the idea of putting this in the file and saying, if things get damaged, this is what we're going to return it to. But when the backyard gets opened up, I feel that he's going to want to, or they're going to want to do something back there differently than what they have, because it's going to be a lot different experience than when they have the shade structure. I went out and saw the markers, and it is in line with the projection of the other houses, but I still feel that that property to the south, it has that unique round, arching window. It is encroaching upon the view more so than the houses now, the extra 7'6", and I still don't feel comfortable with pulling the house out beyond where it is now, because I think it does sort of push this element of the house next door. It pushes it back into sort of like a corner, or sort of it's kind of making it less prominent, less of a feature. And so, while I appreciate that this house has a right to do what they want to do and enjoy the view, in a sense, you're taking the privilege away from the person next to you to have their view, because they're going to be looking at the corner of a building now versus what they had before. And we have pictures of the markers from their view, the window, which is on the wall, I think, and also in our package. And it is more visible than obviously where it is now, where the wall ends now, even though I'm upside down. So I think, in looking at the plan, of course, I don't know what the client's desires are and how many iterations you've gone through with the moving of the different rooms. And I appreciate that you did take our advice and switch the two usages of the rooms to see, how would that work better with reducing the size of that extension. So I just think maybe there's another way, and I was kind of thinking, well, if we could maybe switch into everything, like take the master bedroom and switch it over, but then, of course, you have other issues to deal with. But that would also solve the problem of the bump out for the extra bathroom for the bedroom. So I guess I feel like I don't feel like I can support it entirely, but I do appreciate your effort, and I think that it's better than it was before. So I guess I'll leave it at that and see what my other board members feel about the new design.
I'm pretty much supportive of the project, and I like what you've done. What you did with the flipping there. But I think you could I agree with the staff with cleaning up that roof line on where you have that bathroom added. I think you could be able, I have some sketches done here. I was playing with it while she was talking. I think you'd be able to have the bathroom and a closet, and actually get a better furniture layout too. It's my suggestion. It's welcome everyone to see it, my sketch, if you guys want to see it. But I do agree with the staff. You need to clean up that, and you could achieve the bathroom and a closet and get a better room and better furnishing. I don't know if you guys want to see this.
Can you put it up there?
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm okay if my colleagues and everyone agrees. This is my suggestion. Otherwise, we'll discuss. Pretty much, I'm pushing it back in the way you have it cleaned up. You have the bathroom here, and then have the door pushed back here. That will avoid the door coming from the entrance, and then you have the closet too. So that might resolve your issue and satisfy, and have a cleaner roof design. Otherwise, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Interesting. It's a very small addition, but has a lot of controversial questions and issues that is attached to it. First of all, I want to thank you providing us with the polls. Also, I want to thank you for taking the consideration of switching so that it reduce the amount of the addition that was being proposed originally. I've always been big advocate of looking at facts and to make my decision based on facts, not just what people say and what the normal thing is to do based on. So to me, here are the facts. You're proposing an addition in the front of the building that it aligns with the adjacent or the south property. It aligns with that line. You also have the document that staff prepared, kind enough to go with the Public Works and create an average setback. To me, that's a fact as well. Now, most of the comments and letters that are coming in has to do with the addition is not consistent with the neighborhood and so on and so forth. I completely disagree with that. And there's a lot of different projects there that I can bring as an example that will, it would go against their findings, I guess you want to call it. Now, the issue in regards to the view, yes, it will block the view. And to me, the view is it's subject to the person standing at what point of the room and looking at what direction. By putting that pole in, and actually I have some photos on my camera. I went out there and I took some pictures. Standing on the street looking back, essentially if I would have gone all the way to the end or the north side of the property, took a picture, it would block half the curved window in question. But if I drove up to the middle of the property and I took another picture, it was completely avoiding the curve. So the question comes, if you're standing inside the building, we have some photos that staff took that standing at the farthest corner, and these are photos that the neighbor provided us with this on the last go-around. And I'm kind of talking out loud, kind of going through my thought process right now. So, do we have any more? And I need this one as well. So as it is now, standing at the farthest corner of this curved area, which I understand from staff that this is where you stood and took a picture of this one. That's right. It's pretty much consistent with what the neighbor brought in. To me, the fact is she already has a section of that already blocked off. The question is, what is the extent of the blockage? So then this photo comes into play, or I should say this photo, and it tells me a section of that, which will be probably up to this tree, being blocked off. Now, is it really that detrimental for me to deny them with the addition? Is it that there's this unique point of view that they're going to stand there and they have to look straight out? Are they completely blocking their view? To me, with the facts that are there now, it doesn't. And I don't think a section of that blocking, portion of that view is substantial enough for me to deny this addition. I haven't been proven otherwise. I haven't been proven that if I'm going to deny this based on completely blocking somebody's view, whereas I have to say my decision, and I don't think I can make a decision based on view blockage, because I don't think we have we do not have that authority to deny a project because it's blocking someone else's view, unless council comes up with a revision to the code. So having said all of that, to me, and I can leave this as a record of my thought process, as Mr. Bouladian left his, and this is what I kind of did my study, looking at one point of, I need more. Okay, looking at this corner, standing at this point, if I'm turned completely facing north, and I'm looking completely, and I'm trying to look exactly north, yes, it will block maybe 50% of my view. But if I turn my head just 5 degrees or 10 degrees, then I'm completely have a perfect view of the golf course, which from my advantage point that I was standing here and I was looking at, there's a substantial shrubbery across. So how much of that becomes a view, and I'm not there to judge the what is view and what is not a view. There's nothing substantially for me to say that, okay, this addition is going to detrimentally block any particular view. So that's just how I justify my thoughts. And so other than that, I agree with the consideration. If Mr. Bouladian's sketch is a consideration, I concur with him. I think he's got a good idea. I think we always like to see some options there, and and if his thought is commendable. So here we are. Would you like anybody, either one of you, make a motion or?
Well, I would like to
Sure.
expand on my comment. I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
For me, it's it is we don't have purview over view. What I was trying to kind of articulate was that by adding this piece of this 98 square foot addition, it's diminishing the element, the architectural element of the neighboring property. So it's not.
How is that? Can you explain?
Because you're pulling the front of this house. Our house is pulling the property in line with their property, the south property.
Okay.
So then the corner, which is more prominent, is being diminished because it's being superseded by the addition of the subject property. So you're.
I'm still not sold on that argument, but if you can kind of elaborate on that. I mean, I'd love to.
Right. So right now, I mean, we have these two elements, these two properties, and we're saying that the curving window is an architectural element that gives the person a view that we were debating about. Is that significant enough to argue over the fact that this addition is going to be blocking their view or the character of the neighborhood by putting this piece in front of the house. I think that.
Do you have access to Google, or I took a picture of a property right a block below, which is on this side. Actually, here, I may be able to find it.
Should be the house next door. House next door, picture.
You can. Want to see it? Which one?
The one next door.
Can you just, 3207.
They did this back.
Well, while we're waiting for that, I feel like there's the landscape, which is a borrowed view
Well-
from the south property.
April, you have
they're
to-
having they have a. In landscape, we use like the idea of borrowed landscape, where you get someone else's property, the value of their landscape adds to your view, adds to your landscape. In this sense, the person to the south has, everyone's front yard becomes borrowed view. By putting the addition in front of that effectively blocks that landscape, the view of the south property, and I feel that element from their house that they bought the house for, to say, okay, well, this is kind of the house, the neighborhood that I moved into, that I want this feel, this landscape, this character of the city. It's going to be different now because there's a element there that takes that away from what the south property now has.
Well, April, the offset, the setback for that corner, how far is it, do you think? What's the 40 feet? Can we?
It's 30 foot. What do you mean?
No,
from
it's
the
more
front?
than 30 feet.
What are you asking?
What I'm trying to get, I don't know which direction you're going, but I just want to justify that I had this comment last time for this window, this curved window being so far set into the property, and what the way, I mean, I put Alan, how he explained it, that I don't know if it's really blocking a view. I mean, it's so busy. I drove down there, and I mean, I couldn't put any better than Alan. And standing in that room, I mean, you can't get any better explanation. So I don't see a justification. I don't see the justification of blockage of a view from that room, whatever that room is, because whoever designed that room, the architect, designed way far into the property. Look, if you look at it, it's way far in. And this is the setback 30 feet. You have another 20 feet almost. That's 50 feet in. So the architect, whoever designed it, should have thought that one day anyone could come and build a house there. They have to take into consideration that 30 feet he's going to build something or add something. So you have to respect both sides. And this is the argument we had last time. I was trying to explain, but the way we saw it, I don't think so. I mean, you cannot have 100% view. I mean, she's not. I mean, Alan, do you agree? She's not losing all that view. It's only shrubs.
Here's the thing. No, I appreciate both, your comment, but I don't think it's fair, and I don't know if we have the right even to make our decision based on assumption of devaluing of someone else's property. I think our decision should be based on what we feel as the design and if it's compatible within the neighborhood and within the context of the design. As far as the setback, the curve itself sits substantially further back from the property line, so there is a setback issue. The building itself, right now as it sits, it's already in front of that curved wall.
Right.
Okay. If you would have, I don't know, you definitely drove around the neighborhood. So what I wanted to bring up was this property that I saw, and I have a picture of it on my phone, but I can't put it up. If that concern, what you're bringing as far as devaluing, there's a great example that I would agree with you if there was an addition proposed as it was a block away or a block south of the subject property. And hopefully we can bring it up if we can see that. If not, then I can show you on my phone. But there's almost a 15-foot setback from the the building, and then there's an addition. Apparently there was a new addition, so it was like 15 feet. This is 7 feet. This is already set back. And don't forget, I mean, they can plant in front of that. So as far as, they can literally cover that entire view.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of means and a lot of, I still have not been convinced that this addition does not fit within the neighborhood, because there's many different examples within that road strip that give you much worse conditions than what is being proposed right now.
I don't think we should be looking at them much worse and saying this isn't going to be as bad as that. I think it
And
adds to the
you're absolutely
neighborhood.
right.
It adds
So
to the-
you're absolutely right. But what I'm trying to say is that this addition does not set a precedent within the neighborhood and within the strip of the block on 2 blocks or 3 blocks. What it's been projected with all the letters and everything, that this is a monstrosity and this addition does not fit within the neighborhood. For God's sakes, it's 98 square feet and it's fitting well within the design of the project. And I wanted to see it. Yes, before it was almost 15 feet, 12 feet, or whatever it was. It was substantial. Now it's pushed away further. It's pulled back in. And I think it's a very modest little addition. That's my personal opinion. But we still don't have that. But you know what? If
Well-
I can, maybe I can have the
Email it.
camera.
So I don't want to
the-
redesign everything, but it
No,
seems that we
absolutely.
we have a new plan. It's got the dining room on the right hand side, and it's a smaller width, I believe. It's like 13 feet wide versus before it was 15 feet 1 inch wide.
Can I show this with neighbor? I mean, can they zoom into this? I don't know, because that's the picture I took.
I don't
We
know if
do, as part of the file, we do have photos of all of the properties on the street, and you
Not
might...
this one. I don't.
Oh,
I don't have the street.
Drop a pin on it on Google, it'll tell you the address.
Oh Jesus! It's just how am I supposed to drop a pin on that?
Anyway,
I mean, I'll
going.
show this to you, but
on the screen behind you, I think we're getting an image.
to drop a pin.
Oh, okay, perfect. Ah, there you go. All right, so
This chair is. Something wrong with this
can
chair.
we have one of these little fellows down on the street there?
Those little fellows.
No, they're in Bing, they're in Bing.
like a street view.
We're,
right?
we're not
that's the
using
one.
Google, we're using Bing. I
You're
don't know
using
if-
Bing,
There's
unfortunately.
a little guy.
Yeah, there you go.
Bing, bing.
And put it down
Not
here.
available.
Ah. Okay.
But no matter what.
But
But is your point that that addition is incompatible, or it is compatible?
Well, this gives you the example that what it could have happened.
If you put a big
If
15-foot extension
there was a
out.
15 or 11 foot. I
Right.
think with this addition, I think it's a very modest addition. I think it's very consistent with its own character. They're not redesigning, they're not redoing all the design all the existing the ranch style home. It's a, I mean, at the end of the day, when you drive by this and you see that addition, personally, I don't think it's going to look out of context. And by the time it's done, you're probably not even going to know there was an addition down there.
I think it was our direction to give the applicant how to deal with that corner. I think he did a good job by resolving that issue of that corner. I think we should talk more to get a resolution about that bathroom is sticking out a little bit on the side. And, I mean, I don't have an issue the way he has it, to be honest with you, with the front.
Well, I know we're not supposed to redesign the interior, but if you look at the interior, kind of it describes how the space and the exterior came to be. And I think if you look at the dining room, you have this very large square table in it, and before it was a rectangular table. Why can't we take that shape and turn it on its side and put it here and and work with that idea and maybe that brings the extension out, brings it back even more. So it's not 7'6" now; it's maybe 4 foot. We had 15 feet before, now it's 13 feet. So I think it's a 1 foot setback. There's a lot of things that you could do that I think.
True, and you can obviously, the ultimate thing you can do is not to have that
Not to have,
addition.
yeah.
But a foot or 5 foot, I think bringing it back to be in line within the average setback of the neighborhood, I think that to me is nail in the coffin, because right before, if you would have overlapped what was originally being proposed and looked at the average, yes, that was being projected beyond, and that was substantial. Now it's back, I think it's 7.5, it's a modest addition, and I just think that just a view, considering the blockage of the view, it's not a reason for me to deny this or say you cannot do this. There's
Well, we
nothing
can't
else,
really-
and you know, with all the respect, your comment in regards to devaluing the property, I don't think it's our right to even consider that.
We're
As
trying
far
to keep
as-
the neighborhood the neighborhood.
Yes, if your concern is that it is inconsistent with the neighborhood, that's fine. If the design is not being, it's out of character, the massing is large, or whatever the case may be. But if you're making your decision, and I could be wrong. I mean, somebody can tell me. I mean, I could be wrong, but I've never made a decision based on, if this window's adding here, what happens to the other neighbor? What happens to the value of the other neighbor? Whereas I cannot, I don't think I have the right to even consider that.
No, I think, and I appreciate you
Yeah.
bringing that up. It's sort of like, I don't want to talk about view, I don't want to talk
Right.
about money because
Right.
it's not our purview. It's about elements, architectural elements, and the character of the street. And I think that because when you pull out these square footages from the house, it affects other properties, the way that they relate to each other. Right? We're saying that one house next to the other house, they don't just get built in a empty lot, like an empty piece of paper like this. There's context. And for me, I feel like the context of the house next door's architectural element gets diminished by this addition being so far predominant out into the front yard. And the letters that have come in from the neighbors expressing how it doesn't fit in the context of the neighborhood, and the house itself, the style that the architect has stuck with, yes, it fits with the context of the neighborhood. He's done a great job, in adding all this square footage and keeping the house in character with the neighborhood. But I think in context with the house to the south, its neighboring house, I don't
Well-
feel that it's within the right
Well,
context.
April, let me ask you a question. Why don't you you've been putting your shoes in the neighbor's house.
Right.
Why don't you put yourself in the applicant's shoes? And how would you
Still
respond
have
if
a
it was your
dining-
house?
They can still have a dining room with a view to the park on this side. And I just feel like that there's a little bit of tweaking that could be done to rearrange the rooms or the room sizes that I'm not going to do, but that would make this contextually a better fit.
Well, we're not here to design it. I mean, we gave the applicant the direction to offset 2 feet and then push it back, and then now you're talking you don't want that addition. It's kind of misleading the applicant from the previous meeting.
I mean, he did what we suggested, and I think
Exactly.
that it's almost there.
Well, I mean,
No, I
the
don't-
applicant could always plant a tree there, and the neighbor will lose that view. What are you going to, I mean,
Still have a view with a tree. You can put shrubs there, but there's the idea of landscape, that landscape becomes part of your
or you could put a
your
fence
landscape.
even. You could put a fence and put a tree, and then what?
The fence or the
I mean,
wall
we're-
have to
I mean,
go through
I-
review or...
I don't know.
I don't
So
think
we're
we
not.
need to have a...
Well, a fence would require a building permit, so it would
You
require
would
some
require
kind of
permit, but
design.
not a design review.
Well, it would most likely be at staff level,
Right.
and I don't know if staff would approve it or not. I can't comment on that right now, but it would go through some kind of a review at staff level at least.
Okay. Well, going back to neighbors and the letters that they send, and I appreciate every one of the letters, but I still have not been convinced that the addition is out of context and does not fit in the neighborhood. I mean, there are many examples there that I would, if it would come in front of us, I would say, you're consistently, you have one-story building, somebody comes up with a two-story, I think it's going to be out of context. So I haven't been convinced otherwise. I think I've been convinced with the polls and the facts that it's given to me, and obviously the addition, the design that is being proposed there, that it's consistent with the building itself. I mean, it's not, they're not adding a flat roof, a two-story flat addition in front of the house. They're adding a one-story modest, consistent with the finishes and siding and brick, and the windows are consistent, and the roof pitches are consistent with the existing roof.
And I agree.
Yeah. And so if that is consistent, but then the example of the entire neighborhood, that if we come back and say it doesn't fit within the neighborhood, but what fits in the neighborhood? Because you have collage of different architecture within one block length, not only the entire length of the country club. You have two-story, you have colonial, you have ranch homes, you have, mid-century modern homes, and you have all these different kinds of architectures there that if I need to say which fits and which doesn't, it's impossible for me to say that.
But they all fit in context.
And
House
you don't
to house
think
to house.
and you don't think this fits within its context? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I don't think it
I
fits
see.
that corner doesn't fit with the context of the neighboring house. If it was, if the house looked different next to it, and the context was different, if we
I
were on a
see.
flatland or on a hillside, or the context would be different.
Okay.
And
Well-
then you would have a different situation, and I think then it wouldn't even be an issue, because we would say, even the first design would be fine, because the house itself was designed in a way that was contextually fits within the neighborhood, that the character fits within the neighborhood, but because of the context of where it's sited, it's not, for me, doesn't fit with the neighboring house.
Well, I appreciate that, and I understand.
And I think that there is opportunities within the floor plan for tweaking it around and moving these elements around some more. And I realize that probably architects have gone through several iterations with the client. So I just don't know that that's something that, that I can talk about and say, well, move this and move that. And obviously, if this is the second review. Was this the first review?
This is the
Second review.
No, it's we didn't make a decision,
First
so
review,
it's
right? So he could-
technically it's the
You
first.
could still technically come back with tweaks to the drawings if we return for redesign. And would solve maybe the bathroom problem and the roof problem and all.
Do you feel comfortable?
I'm ready
having
to make a
return
motion.
based on the bathroom, a return for redesign for the bathroom?
Well, I was going to make a motion to approve with the condition to push that bathroom in and rework with the staff and make it and move move the project. I mean, in my opinion, I don't have a problem with the front addition. I think I'm pretty comfortable with the addition, except for I agree with the staff with that bathroom. We could rework that area, and I'm sure the applicant is willing to fix that and make it cleaner elevation on that side. I'll put a motion to approve with the condition to push the bathroom in, rework that space, and clean that facade, revise the roof design, and with the staff. That's my motion.
Well, we still need a second.
I know.
I'm not seconding it.
I think because there are only three of you participating, the other two members of the board that are present are not participating because they were not here and did not watch the full meeting. So it's as if there are only three of you, and therefore you only need 2 votes to pass any motion.
Let me ask you if the other board members are here, are reviewing the project right now, still cannot continue.
Because they were not, they did not hear all the public testimony.
If we continue this, they heard this one.
Will you accept the gavel or not?
Why what?
Will you accept the gavel temporarily?
Will I accept the gavel?
The gavel.
Oh, so that he can second it?
Second. I just asked. Just
No.
If you don't, okay, then if you, I assumed you wouldn't. I wouldn't even try, so I assumed you wouldn't. So,
What you did
so
to me.
then, then it can never be approved. Then, or
Well, if
returned.
you wanted to continue it and the other two members would watch the previous tape, then they can participate.
Watch the video.
And we want to apologize. We were remiss in not informing board members Griegos and Zarifian that in order to participate in this conversation, they would have had to watch the tape. We will do so in the future.
We'll continue
I
because
think
staff was-
actually Chairman Malikian could pass the gavel.
But if she doesn't
She
accept
doesn't
it,
accept it. does it?
I'm not.
Can he pass it to somebody else?
Does she have to read the Constitution continuously? Like we can't adjourn or not? Like,
you know what? I would feel comfortable. I mean, I hate to do this. I hate to do this because I think it would be a good idea for you guys, but I would continue this again. So that this way, both members will have the opportunity to review the previous and make their own, and and I would demand everybody to show up next. That would be a must. So everybody will need to. You gotta put it on your calendar. Cancel
only missed
everything.
one, like in a year.
I mean,
So
this has never happened to me
I don't-
past
yes.
9 years. So this is the first time. So.
Missed one time.
8 years. So I mean, that's the only thing that I can think of.
That'll be June 9.
And June 9th. What was June 9th? I mean,
You won't be.
Do we?
no, but I'll make sure I'm here. What was June 9th? Jesus.
Should we take a break, April,
Well-
and talk about this?
No, we cannot.
We cannot.
We
Actually, we
Unless you two,
we-
unless I'm out of there, they can go ahead and deliberate together, both of them.
we'd like to go ahead and request a 3-minute break. Mr. Tim Foy is actually contacting the city attorney to discuss in regards to passing the gavel. So, if you don't mind, if you
Sure.
like,
Okay, 3-minute recess.
3 minutes.
Please turn on your mics, please. Okay.
Okay.
Is the oh, I like that. I haven't seen those books.
We actually were looking up Robert's Rules of Orders. However, during the recess, it's come to our attention that Board Member Sakai, in clarifying what it means to pass the gavel, she's just accepting the gavel so that you can make a second, that you are not, that Board Member Sakai is not relinquishing her right to vote, and she's still entitled to her vote. It's just that by passing the gavel, you are allowing the chair to then vote, or in this case, to make a second to the motion. So with that said, I believe there's a motion on the table by Board Member Baladian and Chairman
We'll
Malikian.
pass the gavel to Ms. Sakai
Okay. And
without, and I'll second the vote.
so, and there's a second for a motion.
And I believe there was a condition
And I can take the
added by
gavel back.
Mr. Boladian
Not yet?
to
Okay.
eliminate the addition on the north side and redesign the roof line, as well as redesign the interior of the house.
That was a consideration.
consideration to appropriately locate the bathrooms. That way, you don't have to do the 58 square foot addition on the north side.
And if-
that you want as a consideration.
I think
Or
we have to
recommend-
make April. I mean, I would.
Well, let's. I was gonna say let's add another consideration
Okay.
just to address our board members' concerns. I think a consideration should be added if there is possibility of ways that they can
Reduce the
reduce the
size
size
of the
and also push the building. Let that exercise be done and consider bringing it into the staff and showing them, and any alteration is acceptable with us. As far as reducing, not
Reducing,
increasing.
correct,
Okay,
correct.
obviously.
Not a second floor.
Not a
Reducing
second. Well,
And also landscaping that staff had mentioned in the staff report regarding the landscaping in the
I think
front.
we're gonna, I would suggest we can put a condition that they either return it back to how the existing conditions are, and here's the documentation, or that they get a landscape architect to provide the landscape.
Okay, so condition to return it back the way it originally was, if it's damaged.
If it's damaged.
Okay. So with that,
Is
we
that-
have a
Yeah, is that acceptable, however, to the two individuals who made
Yes.
the motion and seconded
yes,
the motion?
absolutely.
So,
Yes.
It passes to you, I guess, for the
I'll put that in the file.
document file.
Thank you, and this is going to be a roll call.
I guess not
Mr.
yet.
Boladian,
Yes.
Mr. Malikian,
Yes.
and Mr. Kai.
Yeah.
Okay, motion passes 2-1. Thank you.
It passes
I'll
back.
take the vote. Good luck.
All right.
All right. Okay, so the next item, I lost my.
The last one, Baxter.
Okay.
I think that's the last one.
The North Pacific is done, so we're going to 618 Palm Drive.
correct.
Pacific.
No, Pacific is,
That's continued to 2 weeks.
Palm doesn't continue. Why do I need this? Is it for Palm?
If that's, yeah, actually, if that's a request to speak for North Pacific Avenue, we'll just go ahead and take it into the record, but that the item was continued, so.
Palm.
Right.
Wait, which one am I continuing? Palm or Pacific?
Pacific.
Right now,
Oh,
correct.
I thought you said Palm, which can continue.
No. The 1008 North Pacific Avenue, which is the second item on the regular agenda calendar,
Okay, we have
needs
two
to be
cars.
continued for 2 weeks due to improper notification.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Brings us to the very last item on tonight's agenda, which is case number 2-PDR 2011-019A, which is for 618 Palm Drive.
Craig, can you pass the pictures?
And Mr. Chris Baxter is
Yes.
setting it up
Sir.
as we speak.
Chair, members of the board. Our next project is a accessory building at the back of a lot in a multifamily zone being constructed. It's behind the single-family house located here, and you'll see in the photographs, Spanish-style home. And this is the structure. The accessory structure will consist of a new garage and a guest house, which is here. And this is the construction end of it. That's the first part, and you can see here's our elevations of it here. The house at the front, the only issue here is, while we were processing this, we noticed that the windows around the house, except this one picture window, were changed without permits, and so we brought them in to get the whole thing done at one time. So the front house, windows were changed without permits. The construction is back here.
So, are we approving that with the dividers, or are we approving that without the dividers?
We got them right here in the conditions, sir. So we're looking for consistency between these. So very quickly, again, though it's a single-family house, it's in a multifamily zone. And so if you drive up and down the neighborhood, and as you look through the photographs, you'll see that there's several single-family homes of a similar style, kind of a Spanish style, and then you have some other styles. Then you have these multifamily buildings that are contemporary, kind of box-like 60s, 70s types of multifamily buildings sprinkled among them in this neighborhood, on both streets, all around this particular property. Just because the building in the front was constructed in 1936, we did our request of the historic preservation planner to see if adding this small addition guest house garage in the back would be a problem. He did not see there being any. when we look at the three major categories of site planning, mass and scale, and design and detailing, staff felt that the mass and scale of the addition back here was fairly compatible with the one here. There wasn't really any issues with that. In terms of site planning, staff did have a couple of concerns, relatively minor. Addition about reducing paving where we can, maybe around in this area here. Make sure it's permeable, and landscaping. Those are our two things for the site planning area. Under the details and design, the windows. And staff said that, we felt that if they could use vinyl windows, but we also said if it's, aluminum or fiberglass as well, they could use it. Our thing that we're concerned about is the front windows. If you look at the photographs, with the exception of the picture window, which did not change, the other windows are all flush mounted, and they used to be block frame. And they have internal grids, and they did not have internal grids before. So the house at the back, if you'll notice, they're going to have a recessed window that they're showing, but they don't want to put a wood sill. And what staff is basically saying, we'd like these windows to be recessed. If you're going to have grids, have the external grid, put the sill back, put it back within the frame, and then just have the back house complement that.
Say that one more time.
Yes, sir. These windows are flush mounted. If you look in the photographs, they're flush mounted. They were block frame.
I can't find it.
Oh, you can't find it? I have some other photos.
It's the first page. There's only one picture of the house.
There's only one page of that. If you have,
I believe I address it. Or submitted separate. Here you go. Here's some windows. This was separate, submitted separately. So what we're looking at again is the existing house had block frame windows with sills. Now they have flush mounted windows, no sills, and they have internal grids. And we're saying put them back to what they were as far as block frame with sills, and if you're going to have grids, have external grids. The one window that did not change is the one in the front, the big picture window, which you see here. That did not change. That remains the same.
Can you define what you're saying as block frame? How
A
are you
block
defining
frame
that?
is like this. It's where the frame is in.
You are recessing.
Yeah, recessed into the wall with the wood sill, the traditional wood sill. That's what we're referring to. Anyway, so that's what. And so staff is saying if you're going to do that we'd like you to return it to its original condition. If you want to use vinyl, fine, but just make sure it's a block frame. In other words, recessed into the wall, put a wood sill. If you want to use fiberglass or aluminum, fine. If you're going to have the grids, make sure they're on the exterior. That's the front house, to legalize those, and then replicate it on the back. If you're going to have block, we have this kind of a block frame, and we're just saying put your wood sill on it. And if you're going to have grids, but they're not showing grids. I don't think they're interested in grids.
So you're,
It's going to match the front house. If it
Yeah.
has grids, put grids. If not, no grids. Okay.
are you saying they need to replace the window? Or
That's what we're asking.
replace the window?
We're asking to do the recessed window, which would have been that case when this house was built in 1936.
What they're showing on the elevation is sort of a colored border. Is that their recognition of the recessed, or were they talking about a plant-on previously?
On this one here?
Yeah.
No, you can see here, this one here, we worked with them to come up with this detail here, which shows it recessed from the front of the wall. So that's,
So are they saying that the frame is a different color then? Or is it a darker
I
color
think
frame?
this is meant to indicate that this is a recess. A recess, that's what that's meaning to indicate, not a separate band frame around it. As you can see right here, he's not showing on the face of a stucco, he's not showing any type of a trim element.
Let me ask you a question. It looks like those windows, that rear view, is it
it looks like it's lower, the
Garage, it's the garage.
the garage window, that's why it's low?
The garage is lower.
The
Okay, there, and this,
the steps.
The house is
oh,
up
this
a
is
foot.
this is the rear side, yeah, here's the garage side right here. That's the garage side, this is the house side. This is the accessory guest house side. This is the garage side. And this is the, actually, this is the garage right here. So that's what, oh, yes, and real quick, if you look at the conditions would, at the back, reflect that. We have 5 conditions. Windows are 2 of the conditions. Landscaping, paving are 2 of the conditions. And there is one other condition that the applicant had initially proposed a metal door for the front of the guest house, and we're just saying do a wood door.
Can I ask you a question? It seems like these windows are designed to be flush mounted.
Yes, I know, that's,
So that means that you're asking to change all the windows?
yes, that's what we're asking, yes, that's what ours, the applicant, has said to us, if you look at it from the street, you're not able to get it on the big screen?
I was not.
Okay, all right, so if you you can look in the photographs if you pass around, he's basically saying if you look here, you really can't see this because it's in the courtyard, like a little courtyard, and this window didn't change, and you really can't see around
That
it.
one didn't change?
This big one did not change.
Yeah, that I know.
The rest of them, though, and so, but if you look at the photographs, it's not like they're all that visible from the street. Yes, ma'am.
You said, recommends decreasing paving, recommends the pavers be separate so as to be permeable. What do you mean by that?
Well,
Separate from each other? Separate from
well, no, I meant to be, the word separate probably is going to be confusing. The word permeable is kind of our emphasis.
Do we know that
Do the house pictures? Which pictures?
it's sand or?
The house
She
pictures, she has
told me later that it's on sand, but that would be part of our condition, is to verify that during the plan check, that it is on sand base.
Yeah, and sand makes it permeable, right?
Yeah, and makes it permeable. That's what our interest is, as opposed to concrete. So I apologize that the concrete is an extra description that probably in some ways.
And are they redo, oh, I saw, I'll see that. After the front door's being.
Oh, you're talking about right here?
Yeah,
You know, that is a good question. I didn't think to follow up on that end right
Okay,
there.
I'll ask.
All right, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right.
All right, we have 2 cars and 1 gentleman sitting there, so I don't know what's going on.
Correct.
So,
Mr. Arm Kazazian had to leave,
Okay.
so.
Art Barsegian, you can state your name and address, please.
My name is Art Barsegian, and the address is 409 West Broadway, Glendale, California, 91204. I am the designer of this guest house. Is 324 square feet, and the new 2-car garage. I try to have the same architectural design, Spanish style, the same roof, same material, everything. And also for that existing windows, we have 4 Italian the trees in the front, and also 1 big palm tree. Really is very hard to see that 3 windows in the front of the house. And for the changing that window is very hard. Anyway.
Do you know about the paver, the walkway from the
Yes.
street to the front door? Is that going to be new with pavers, or is that going to be existing, the concrete?
No, it's paver.
You're changing it to
Yes.
pavers? And
Yes, all paver is the
to match the driveway?
driveway, also for the getting to the house also.
Okay.
All the
You want it to be consistent?
Yes, I change everything.
And they're going to be on sand to be permeable?
Yes, with
That's okay with you?
half inches.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Public session. Mr. Garagos, would you like to start?
Sure, I guess. It's always difficult when you come in after the fact retrofitting windows on an entire house. What's unfortunate is that it's a house that has some nice detailing to it. It has with a great front window, which makes the very unfortunate window choices they made scream that much more. So it's hard for me to say change the whole house, although if that was please the board. I really think you need to do at least what is visible from the street in a real sense. And so from the window standpoint on the front house, I would be inclined to at least do that as a minimum. Whatever cost is incurred is really the fact that they did it without permit and did it inappropriately and did not do a good job at it. So to let them have it done poorly without a permit and everything seems not fair to people who do it properly. So I wouldn't want to put the onus of doing the entire house, but I think of what the portions of it that affect the community, I think it should be addressed properly. And then we can talk about what proper is. In terms of guest house, I think it's fine in general. I don't have a problem with it. I do know there's situations like on the back of a house, and I've done it myself, where you leave off the grids and stuff because of view or something. I do think it might be nice for maybe at least the front window to have dividers, so at least in that aspect of it, it's kind of consistent. Maybe the other areas don't have to have divided light. But other than that, I'm supportive of the project. I know there's the operation of some of the windows around the house aren't the same, but if you're not doing dividers on those, I don't know that it's as critical. So I would want it on the front of the house. And also to rewind a second, my little bugaboo on the windows is the proportion of each pane, how it looks. And I think it's important on the Spanish that it's true to the style, which is a horizontal relationship of each pane of glass. So you don't do the real tall sort of English style. So if we were to change out those ones that were visible, I'd want it to go towards that more Spanish style, especially because the front window is so nice and the rest of the house has nice detail to it. So,
but the front one is more vertical, though. I mean,
he actually drew it slightly horizontal, but it is true that it's slightly different.
Yeah.
It is slightly different,
Yeah,
but it's
it's
almost
different.
square. I can't let me take a look.
Some of them are square.
Yeah,
Sky?
that's close.
I'll just jump back and forth.
Yeah, sure.
To jump
Yeah.
back and forth. I think that the back house is, well, it looks good. It fits the context. I think it's done well. I feel like it's missing is the entrance area needs to have a little bit more presence, a little more detailing to it versus just having a little bit of awning over the front door and two little steps coming up. I'm not sure if there's a clearance issue, but I think if you can just take that awning all the way across the front and use the same post details that the front house has, and have the awning extend the whole distance of the front, and then just wrap around and die into the garage. Obviously, being a much narrower section that wraps around and dies into the garage, and having posts that match the front house, it would give it a little bit more of a architectural detail styling that matches the front house and is probably a better look. But since it's the back house, I'm just going to suggest that it's not going to be a condition. And about the windows, I feel like if the house was given new windows that were unpermitted, that were done poorly, that if it were my house, I'd want them to all match and not be such a hodgepodge of, now we have some that are recessed and some that aren't, and some are vinyl and some are fiberglass and some are grids and some aren't grids, and some are done in this time and some are done that time. So I would be in favor of changing them all out like staff's recommending to be the recessed, grid or no grid, up to the applicant, and have them all match. Because I feel like if we're going to advocate that people can put in unpermitted windows and not have to go back and change them out later by not making this applicant do it. So that's my 2 cents on that. And I think in terms of landscaping, since the applicant said that the pavers are going to be permeable, that pretty much makes most of the landscaping area permeable. The suggestion by staff to take some of the pavers away, I don't really see an area where they can. The pavers that come from the steps go into the driveway then comes down, and the walkway from the sidewalks are all necessary areas to to traverse. So I don't think that we need to take any of the pavers away, and they're going to be permeable anyway, so I think that that's fine. Is there other condition in here? Metal door to wood door is fine, and I think the landscape plan, if they can just provide what kind of planting is going to be in the new areas, so that we have an idea of what the applicant is suggesting to put in there. It doesn't have to be professionally done. Yes.
If I may just jump in, India hawthorn is what he's stating is going to be there right now.
That's fine. Let's be water-wise.
But it doesn't have to be a landscape architect, it just, I mean, your statement that a landscape plan,
As long as the landscape is shown on this plan.
on that site plan.
Right.
Okay, it's,
I didn't notice that. Where's the designation of
it.
what it is? Oh, India hawthorn plant, all the way around. Okay. Seeing behind it. What happens on the backside? It's just turf.
The large plan
I
doesn't
think
show
it's
anything. It shows it on the, I think, east, west, and north side of the guest house, but nothing on the rear. And then I guess the rest would be some type of a sod grass.
New grass to match existing. Yeah, I think that's fine.
So that plan right there is acceptable?
I would suggest less lawn in the front, but that's recommendation. That's
Okay.
Mr. Muladi?
I kind of agree with Mr. Giragos about the windows. As far as the windows, I would go this extent to replace at least the front facade to bring it the way it was, whatever how the staff is recommending. I don't have any problem with the back addition. It's kind of in the back, and it looks like the applicant is using the same Spanish architecture to blend it in. I'm okay. I agree with all the staff conditions. That's it.
Yeah, I think the design of the back house looks pretty consistent. It looks very simple and nice. I think the windows should probably match with the existing house. The problem is that the existing house, it reminds me of a case that came before us maybe a couple of years ago, and there was a much larger house that they had changed all the windows, and with one exception that they had some border around the windows that somehow gave them the right weight and depth, but it was projecting. And the argument there was that we felt that if we change all these windows, basically it's against being green, and we'll kind of create this waste of windows that are so new and nice. But I wonder if that could be a mitigation that somehow, I don't know if it falls within the language of the Spanish house or not, to add something to the windows as a surround that helps making it kind of a more sort of a heavier window and opening. And that way we can then make everything consistent without changing everything. Because I think it's better for the house to have windows that are consistent rather than just saying, you know, the front is nice and that's what you see, the back is okay. At least that I feel the same as Ms. Sakai. I would match definitely whatever we do with the windows of the existing house. I think the back house should be the same. And everything else, I think I agree and I don't have a problem, basically.
Any suggestion in regards to the alternate?
I mean, just adding the same, similar, maybe, I don't know about the sill. You can't fake the sill. The sill is either the right one or the right detail or not. But I think in the other house there was basically a projection of maybe 1.5 or 2 inches, which surrounded all the windows, and it will be a mitigation that can save the windows but give them a little bit more weight rather than being flush.
You didn't have a fake sill, like a protected piece that was maybe thicker in the bottom?
Probably, yeah, it could help. Maybe the sill projects a little bit more, because I think these windows look rather new, and I hate to kind of create waste and throw them out, and imagine the amount of work that you have to do again to the stucco, the waterproofing, everything. So I thought maybe that could be, as I was reminded, could be a alternative we can consider.
And how would that look now? A sill at the base, or a trim
It will
piece?
be a
Trim piece.
consistent trim piece that's out of the same stucco, but then the sill projects further out, maybe another 1.5 inches.
So a trim piece around the window with the sill trim projecting
Being
a little
out of
further.
wood, first of all,
Okay.
the
sill.
sill will be out of wood, but
But the
projecting
trim
out.
would be stucco?
Within the style,
Or could be, I don't think the Spanish houses have wood trims.
they don't.
They're
They
all
don't.
stucco.
But within the Spanish style, there is a almost an overcompensated border that's very thin. It's always done too deep, like 2 inches. It's too heavy.
Yeah,
They do one that's very thin, that's only about a 1/2 inch beyond the other plaster, just to give a shadow line of a border.
yeah.
Those can be 3 or 4 inches wide. I would be game to saying, leave the frame, change the sash. So, because I think the problem for me is that the sticking just detracts so much from the house. I think it's really unfortunate. You guys can do what you want, but I think
Which,
So you're,
if you left the frame,
Yeah.
change the sash so you could correct the sticking on the windows.
How can you change the sash?
leave the frame,
Leave the frame.
the flush.
Leave the frame, take the sashes out, just the sash.
oh, you mean what's
sash.
inside?
Yeah, leave the frame,
Yeah,
just remove the sash.
you can do that.
I believe
Isn't
you
that
can do that
internal?
on the,
I thought it was internal to the
That
glass,
was all
the window.
together.
no, the actual, leaving just the frame and just removing the sash, which has its own frame.
Not
Slash
quite.
is sliding. The sash is the whole portion that moves. You remove the whole portion that moves.
And what do you
Put a new one in.
So it's still flush to the wall, on the
Still
wall.
flush. What I'm saying is, you wouldn't have to.
Well, you leave the frame where it hits the stucco and
Exactly.
remove everything else. It's not. I thought there's a part
Well,
that moves. You
that's
can
what
move
they
that.
do when they do retrofitting, right? Retrofit of existing
You leave the
windows.
frame.
I'm saying rather than trying to redo the whole internals inside of the house finish and the outside as much, leave the frame same location, change the sash out, and add your element on the outside.
Yeah.
Because in reality, I don't like the detail. I think
if,
the real
if you
detail.
can change it, it's fine. But I didn't know you can change that. I mean, because
like a
there's a
retro.
part of the window that is it's not.
The fixed portion.
Yeah, the fixed portion is you can't move it. No,
What do you think of that?
I don't think you
I was
can.
trying to think of an option between. The detail for me is not, if that's the detail the city wants, is fine. That's not really the old detail. The window would be framed flush to the outside face of stud, and you would bullnose just the thickness of the plaster back to the window, and then the wood sill would then stick beyond the plaster because the window is at that point. So it's not really the detail you're showing. That would be, I don't think that's the way the original window was. I can almost bet the window was right at the flush to the outside face of stud, and it was just the plaster that bullnosed.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the detail that you see there was specifically for the guest house only, not for the front house.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't know what the.
But I'm saying even on the guest house, that
Okay.
that would be even more, unless you were doing it on two, that would be very inconsistent in my mind.
Doing it that.
Yeah, because I think all you're trying to do is get the bullnose of the plaster. Right.
Right.
So, I mean, that's all I would expect out of somebody, not to recess it all the way in.
So you're saying that for the...
I'm saying if you don't do it on the front
I don't
house, I
think
wouldn't
you
make
can
it,
do
I
it.
wouldn't make it that much different on the back
I
house.
don't think you can do it with the nail-on, what you're talking about, because the nail-on has a lip that...
Already has the recess on it.
Has a recess on it.
What we've done is you do a 2x3 inside of it, the nail-on goes onto the inside. You do your opening 3 inches bigger.
And that's what they're showing.
Right, but
That's what it's showing.
when you recessed it in, it counterbalances for the pop-out on the fin.
Right.
It recesses at that amount.
They use the thickness of the stucco as the recess.
I mean, that's how I would want to see the
Yeah,
detail.
anyway, my suggestion is that let's
much
think
window
of
you
a
change?
different Spanish detail that can make the things work and match as much as possible as you're suggesting. And about the sashes, I don't know if we can change the sashes of the...
On that one, I'm not sure, of this product. I don't know.
Okay.
That's the only...
I
That's-
don't
that's
have,
all
I don't
I said.
have any comments. I think you guys covered everything, so I'll take a motion. Somebody with their considerations.
Well, can we just get a read on how many windows, what do we want to change in the front house? I think that's really the issue. I mean, how,
If I may,
Yeah.
it sounds like Chair Garrigos, Baladian, and Zarifian were starting to be in agreement about adding essentially a plaster detail or an additional dimension of plaster that would bullnose on the header and jams, thank you, and that there would be an additional sill different than the detail that's drawn, but that would essentially project out. And I guess what I'm wondering too, it sounds like that sill would extend so that the additional thickness of the plaster would finish off in the sill. So the sill would extend
Yeah.
beyond the window. So I think we have an understanding of what that additional work would look like. Now, one of the questions that we have is there agreement on the board to change out, to leave the frame in the window and to change out the sash itself, the movable portion of the window, to be a different material and not have the internal grids, or I'm afraid I don't have the picture in front of me, I'm not exactly remembering the condition, or to leave the windows the way they are with that change of the detail. That's a little bit of a confusion for staff.
confusion for the board.
Well,
Because otherwise you...
Should I make a motion?
I'd be supportive of the surround, I just think the window needs to be changed. The sticking, I think, is just really bad on the front of the house. You live with it elsewhere.
Now, would that be for just the front or the entire house? Because there was also some difference of opinion on that point.
Unfortunately, it ends up being almost a third of the house. You'd have to do the living room, dining room, kitchen, if you were to do that.
you know what the problem is? I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is that they don't have a solution, and we're sitting here and designing it for them. I think we need to have a design
Yeah.
and for them to address this and bring it to us for us to look at and say yes or no or do this or do that. But right now we don't have any. I mean, we're just going off the top of our head and trying to figure out what's the solution.
Well, if I may,
Sure.
they are presenting that this is how they want, this is how they want the windows. What they've built is what they want the windows. So they are presenting, they are making a proposal. If the board is
But what is the proposal?
Keep the existing windows.
to keep the windows that have been illegally installed.
Yeah, we
Um,
say it's not acceptable.
Staff has conditioned that in a way that we thought might be acceptable to the board. It sounds like the board is wanting to make adjustments. If you're not comfortable with your ability to, on the dais, make those adjustments in a way that we can help craft conditions that both staff and the applicant understand, of course, you're free to recommend a return for redesign with comments that some changes should be made to the windows on the front of the house to make it more authentic to the existing house. I'm sure the applicant appreciates that some of the board members don't want to ask to replace all of the windows, but with all due respect, they have come with a proposal, and that is to have it remain as it's currently built.
Okay, well,
Mr. Chair, could we ask the applicant if they are amenable to the, otherwise it's back for redesign in my mind. I mean, are they open to the fact of changing those windows, in a manner that we could specify? Otherwise, I think it's back for redesign.
well, I think he did mention that they don't want to change anything, they want to leave it that way it is, but I think,
And I make a motion that goes back to redesign and addresses that
well,
issue.
let's, before we do that, I think Zarifian came up with a sketch that I think I like, and I think that's the direction that I wanted to. At least there's a solution here, and then we can comment on that. I think it's fine.
I would just...
To thicken
It has to be thin,
If
though.
the
It has to be
sashes,
thin.
yeah.
The plaster applique surround has to be thin.
If the sashes can be
Can't be like a
removed,
2x4, that's very thin.
yeah, we can assign a dimension that...
Yeah, you
like-
can't
All
go
the
more
windows,
than an inch.
Stephanie, or
Maybe
the
like
front?
3/4 of an inch out.
Yeah.
Real small.
I said the front has to be.
I just quickly want to write some dimensions on that band width and that dimension width, those two widths.
2 inch.
4 inch.
Well, do we want to return for redesign with that suggestion, or do you want to just say?
Well,
this
see,
is a
here's the
condition, you have
thing,
to do it like that?
and I appreciate staff clarifying, and, at the end of the day, we're sitting here and designing it for them.
Yeah.
Well, I like,
So,
back
It's
to
a
redesign, then.
suggestion for
but,
return.
I mean, if you guys are comfortable, ultimately, I hate to design it for them. I rather, if that's what they're proposing.
I'm not
and if
comfortable with it because I think the window still looks ugly. I mean,
That
still ugly.
window- has to be
No,
replaced.
I
It
think
doesn't-
if the sashes can be removed, I'm all for that.
the what?
The sashes.
Ashes?
Yeah, what if they can't be
Or the
removed?
grids, or what do you mean?
I don't know.
This-
We have to. That
I
should
mean,
be
it has to be, the
conditioned.
window has to be
I
replaced.
don't think it can be. I think it's
window
I think
has
the
to be-
vinyls, I think, are
Yeah.
all
Large one on the front would
Has to
need
be
to be
replaced.
replaced.
Oh, no, that's existing.
That's existing. That's the one we're not talking
Oh,
about.
that's an existing.
That's
That's the only window we're not talking about.
That we don't want.
How about
Be on the
replace?
garage.
Okay.
How about replace that one?
That's the one,
that
that's the
one
only
is-
one that isn't replaced.
How about replace that one, actually? That's.
But I think I was in favor of staff's suggestion, just replace them all, do it the way it used to be, make the house look authentic. But it is a huge financial burden. Are we talking about financial now, or are we talking about character of
Absolutely.
Talking
Right now, if I have to say, you do not think financially, you only strictly think design.
Design.
That's all. That's all it
And
is.
it-
If you
it has-
think that the design needs to change and improve, don't bring finance into the picture.
Hassle, finance.
We're not the
Okay.
bank here.
if our ex board member, Miss
Make a motion.
Laura Friedman was here, would have suggested that change all of them.
Do it
Well-
right. Take a look. I mean, the house otherwise looks very characteristic of a standard style
Basically,
house.
we're all sitting here that the applicant doesn't want to replace, but needs to be replaced. So we should ask the applicant to come back with another solution to replace those windows, basically.
Well, if I may, it sounds like there's agreement on the board to provide a detail around the windows that's appropriate to the house and to change out all the windows in the house. Now, that seems like clear direction that staff has in the past been able to administer. The applicant has made their position clear. It's obviously their choice whether or not to proceed. If the board conditions an approval, they can proceed to comply with that approval or appeal to the council. But to return it for redesign with that level of clear direction may not be necessary, is what I'm suggesting.
I think that you're correct.
Well, I think there's two options. I mean, either they're going to replace all the windows with just a bullnose plaster, which would be simpler on the, or you're going to redo about, in my mind, half the windows. You know, just modifying just half the windows with the plaster surround, maybe. I mean, where do you stop the plaster surround? And that's the question. Are you saying put the plaster surround on the whole house?
Yeah, the whole house.
Whole house. Okay.
Personally, I think we should give them two options. Either replace the entire windows, or if they don't want that, they can come back with an alternate to us and prove. Right now, that's what we're saying. I really don't think, I mean, there's going to be only 2 or 3 windows that are not going to be visible, so why does, and then they're going to be...
I agree with Alan.
So if they think that they can come up with a detail that it's going to, be consistent with the one that we need to keep, then so be it. Let them come back, and they have the option of without, they can do that.
So you for return for redesign, or they'll come back with a new application?
No, right now I think we can approve it with whatever
They would
the
come back
staff
with a new
recommended.
Otherwise, they would come back with a new
They would
application.
come back with an alternate if they don't think that's appropriate, and they can appeal it as well.
But it wouldn't come back to us then and appeal.
Well, if they appeal it, it'll go directly to council.
Per council.
Okay.
Okay, there were a couple of other conditions that we heard. Ms. Sakai mentioned a recommendation for a revision to the awning, extending the awning at the back of the house to that full front extension, and also wrapping that awning around to it hits the wall where the garage faces. There weren't any other board members that picked up on that. We just wanted to ask about that piece. And then the landscaping we also heard was okay, but that there would be a recommendation for reducing the amount of lawn in the front.
I think my general comment on that is that I completely agree that something needs to happen. I think
Considerations.
the detail and the character of the front of the house, it's so powerful in comparison to what is being proposed in the back. So I think there's a lack of consistency in what is happening in the front versus what is being proposed in the back. So I agree, something needs to happen. It could be the porch canopy, it could be the steps that are going in, it could be a low wall, kind of a little gate that it creates a little section there, or you have a little patio there, you go in, and so anything can happen rather than just a little eyebrow.
We're saying condition that something happens that
Something a
kind
little
of,
bit more consistent with
accentuates
the front of the house.
Match the front, but it's a consideration as to what they're going to put there, if it's a
Right.
patio or if it's an awning extension, or
Something a little bit more consistent, yeah.
I'm all for that.
No, I think that's a good comment.
So we have provide additional awning or other details, particularly at the front of the back house, to be more consistent with the front house.
I think we covered everything. Do we have a motion?
Can you just go over the window? What is our motion for the windows? Just so I know what we're doing.
The windows, we
I
have
just want to know what it is. What is it?
The motion that we have for the windows is that replace all of the windows on the front house, that all the windows that have been illegally replaced, obviously with the exception of the front original window that is existing, replace all of those windows with aluminum, fiberglass, or wood windows that are appropriate to the house, with appropriate grids, and also include a plaster bullnose detail at the head and jambs with a wood sill that projects beyond the face of the wall and projects to the end of the surrounds.
So there isn't a second option, that's just the one option then?
Their second option is for them to come back with.
Okay, you mentioned that you were going to give them two options. Okay,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I understand. Okay, that's what I was asking.
Okay.
And if I may, the landscape, we don't need a landscape plan, it was just a site plan showing these plants, as Ms. Sakai mentioned, okay.
And it's just a recommendation that if they would reduce the amount of lawn area with
In
more
the
plant,
front.
with native, or not native, with drought tolerant planting consideration.
Yeah. One more suggestion I have. I think this window is too close to the door because I think it has been centered in on this elevation. I think that has to move away and it will help the elevation.
But then isn't it centered on the roof? Oh, it's not centered on the
Yeah, it doesn't.
hip?
Yeah,
It's
it's been
centered here.
centered on the main sort of
Yeah,
length
so
of the
it's fine.
elevation,
But then it will look off-center.
It doesn't need to be centered because the door's there.
it does because the door
already
it's a
creates
simple
the
door and
asymmetry.
window composition, and they're too close to each other. That's an opportunity for that window to be a little bit more important. It could be larger actually, even so that kind of mimics the house and becomes frontal.
It's funny because I look at this now, it looks centered on the roof, which to
which
me
it shouldn't be.
better than having it just kind of slightly shifted over.
No, not slightly. It has to move over
All
to
the
the
way over
side,
to the-
so the door has its own.
You're saying
kind
put
of
it all the way over to
space
this
and-
side?
No, it's actually I drew it
You
here.
want it centered on the wall?
Does staff feel comfortable with all these?
Yeah.
Okay.
Centered on the wall.
Right. All I-
And then why do you have these two windows that don't even match?
No, those are to the side. They're. This window, this wants to
motion.
become.
Okay, you can set a motion. Somebody needs to set a motion.
So make a motion with the conditions noted.
I second it.
Thank you.
And
For approval.
Mr. Beladian? Okay, roll call. Beladian?
Yes.
Mr. Garagos?
Yes.
Ms. Sakai?
Yes.
Mr. Zarifian?
Yes.
Okian?
Yes.
5-0. Approved with conditions
The minutes,
and consideration.
Mr. Kai and Mr. Baladian.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, the minutes, this would be the minutes from April 28th, 2011, and board members Baladian, Malikian, and Sakai were present, and board members Garagos and Zarufian were absent, so.
A motion to approve it.
Second it?
A motion by board member Baladian, a second by board member Sakai. Board member Sakai?
Yes.
Baladian?
Yes.
Malikian?
Yes.
Passes 3-0.
And we're adjourned.
Adjourned.